Hello and welcome to my video about long COVID and returning to work. My name is Suzanne Crichton and I am an occupational therapist working in a specialist vocational rehabilitation service in Edinburgh. My service supports people with health conditions or disabilities to remain in work and return to work following sickness absence. Over the last few years, our service has been working with a lot of people who are experiencing long-term and often complex health impacts following a COVID-19 infection. Post-COVID-19 syndrome, or long COVID, is a complex and unpredictable health condition. Symptoms are varied in both their scope and intensity. The symptoms can fluctuate and people can often experience periods of relapse. The recovery journey for people with long COVID can be frustratingly slow and highly unpredictable. From experience, I've found that no two people with long COVID are the same, which means there's no definitive one-size-fits-all policy or procedure to returning to work. Although there are some things that commonly feature in successful returns, and these are the things I'd like to share with you today. Good communication is a key factor in any return to work planning, and it's even more important with long COVID because there's still a lot of uncertainty and lack of understanding about this condition within the general population. The education of others in the workplace, such as managers and colleagues, can play an important part in the success of returns to work, and I would encourage people to share as much about their health and personal limitations as they feel comfortable with. From experience, the more people in the workplace that know about long COVID and how it can impact on their colleague, the more likely that the supports and the adjustments that are put in place will be understood, accepted, and sustained. I've added some resources on the website that may be helpful to any workers or managers who want to increase awareness of long COVID in the workplace. Good communication is not just required in the planning stages. This needs to be ongoing throughout the return to work journey. Regular reviews and check-ins will mean that any issues that arise can be highlighted in a timely manner. And if alterations to the plans are required, these can be made quickly and hopefully avoid any exacerbation of symptoms, relapse, and ultimately avoid further absences. As the nature of long COVID recovery is unpredictable and fluctuating, it follows then that the most successful return to work plans will be the ones that can offer the most flexibility and that are tailored to individual workers. Some examples of practical workplace adjustments that have been helpful for people with long COVID when they return to work are things like working from home if you can. So having the ability to avoid a commute or even avoiding just having to shower and dress at the set time every day can save valuable energy that can then be redirected towards work tasks. Working from home also allows workers to more easily pace their activities, to take breaks, and to practice important self-management strategies, such as breathing exercises or maybe meditation, and these things might be hard to do in certain work environments. Extending phased returns beyond the usual prescriptive 4 to 6 weeks has also been helpful. Because recovery time is unpredictable with likely relapses, having an extended phased return to work can support workers to consider returning to work sooner because they know that they have more time to phase up. It can also support the sustainability of a return to work, as workers are less likely to overdo it if they know that they have a cushion of a bit extra time. Adjustments to working hours can be a huge support when initially returning. Workers should aim to start with short, non-consecutive days and gradually increase this. Starting too high can result in a need to reduce the hours, and that brings with it a sense of failure or going backwards. Some of the people I've worked with have started at 30 minutes per day, and while I know this will not be feasible for everyone, it's definitely worth exploring what would be a minimum realistic starting point. There can also be benefits of starting work later or finishing earlier. For example, if sleep is an issue or pain and stiffness make it difficult to get going in the morning, then a later start can work best. Likewise, an early finish may be helpful if fatigue, pain, or cognition worsen as the day progresses. If a worker does have to physically attend work, then adjusting the start and finish times can sometimes reduce the commute time if workers don't have to travel at peak times. Maybe provision of a parking space could minimise the walking required before and after work with a similar effect. The less time spent on commute, the more time and energy can be focused on work tasks. We've also found that the traditional phased return pattern of weekly increments has not been as successful for people with long COVID, and instead, a pattern of consolidate then increase has been more successful. Having the ability to consolidate a work pattern over a few weeks allows the worker to ascertain if this has been a one-off good week or if the work pattern is actually sustainable without relapse. Once new baselines are consolidated, increments can then be made to the domains of either hours, days, or work tasks, and where possible, it's helpful to avoid increments in multiple domains at the same time. Other more specific adjustments could include things like agreeing additional time to complete tasks, focusing on one task at a time, avoiding the need to multitask, limiting physically demanding tasks, so starting with lighter duties, additional rest breaks, maybe even provision of a rest space, allocation of a buddy who could cover work tasks if the worker has to stop at short notice. There will be many individual adjustments that could be put in place, and most large employers have access to human resources and occupational health support to formulate return to work plans and agree reasonable adjustments. In circumstances where these in-house resources are not accessible, it's still important to explore the available return to work options and consider if any external support is available. ACAS can be a good source of support in these situations, and there's a link to them on the website. People with long-term health conditions that have lasted or are likely to last longer than 12 months may be protected under the disability provision of the Equality Act 2010, and this may offer some leverage to requests made for workplace adjustments. There's also financial support available through the government-funded Access to Work scheme, which can help fund adjustments if cost could be a barrier. Again, links to these resources can be found on the website. While return to work is important, and there's a lot of evidence to demonstrate the positive health impacts of being in meaningful employment, individuals must also consider that there are other factors associated with good health and well-being. Maintaining a healthy work-life balance is really important for longer-term stability and sustainability at work, and it can be easy to neglect these elements when the focus is all on returning to work and completing a phased return. So as a final point, I'd like to share a reminder that a focus on home life and time for leisure is just as important when planning a return to work. Thank you for watching, and I hope the resources included will provide you with helpful information and support.